Ladies and gentlemen, to Fan Appreciation Month here on Reaction and Review. Tonight, guys, I'm taking a look at a fantasy film from 2005. That movie is Dungeons & Dragons: Wrath of the Dragon God. Now, the only thing I know about this movie is that, well, I know two things about it. Number one, it's a Sci-Fi Channel original picture, so I am not expecting anything good here. Also, for whatever mind-bogglingly stupid reason, it is a direct sequel to the Dungeons & Dragons movie from 2000. The one that was hated by critics, the one that was hated by theater goers, the one that bombed in the box office. For whatever fucked up reason, the Sci-Fi Channel thought it'd be a good idea to make a direct sequel. And I am not looking forward to this because that first D&D movie kind of sucked, and the fact that this thing is working with an even lower budget, mind you, the first one looked horribly cheap in the first place. The fact that it was produced by the Sci-Fi Channel, it's like, guys, there is nothing here that I am looking forward to. This thing, I fear, is going to suck, and it's going to suck really fucking badly. The only way I'm going to find out how badly it is going to suck, though, is if I shut up and I push play, and I'm going to do that right now. So, without further ado, it's time to kick back, relax, and check out Dungeons & Dragons: Wrath of the Dragon God. Wow. So this movie was made 5 years after the first one. The CG has gotten vastly worse. I didn't even think that would be possible. Okay, I have a rather stupid question. Just bear fucking with me here. But if this dragon, formerly a god, or maybe still a god, or whatever the fucking circumstances are, if he doesn't have his powers anymore and is lying dormant in a cave, I'm going to state this again, has no powers, why don't they just go down there and kill him while he's still dormant? Instead of going after this fucking orb. Wouldn't that make a bit more sense? Just kill him in the cave? I mean, okay, yes, I totally understand that we then wouldn't have a movie, but damn it, that makes more fucking sense than going on a wild goose chase for this fucking orb, you know what I mean? And so now the dragon is stirring inside of the mountain. I would once more like to mention, this dragon is powerless. There's nothing, and it's also, at least for the moment, somewhat, dormant. There's nothing stopping these people from just going down there and killing it right the fuck now. Yet they haven't. And now it's starting to move around a little bit. I really think you should just go down there and kill it before it has a chance to wake up and do any real damage. Swear to God, guys, that to me just seems like the most logical fucking step, and nobody has taken it yet, and it's beginning to bug me a little bit. You know, guys, I really wish I could bring myself to care about anything which is going on in this movie, but I really can't. You have no idea how mind-numbingly boring this movie is. Now, mind you, this story would probably be awesome if I were playing it in an actual D&D campaign. However, to watch it played out in this movie is becoming a tedious chore, and I can't wait for this goddamn movie to end. So, hang on a minute here. So, we have seen in this movie tons and tons of writing, and it's all been in some mysterious, like fantasy, language. All of a sudden now we get a statue that all of a sudden has everything written in perfect English. I don't know why, but that just kind of sort of seems a little odd, to me. You'd almost think that the statue would, like everything else in this fucking movie, be written in some kind of goofy-ass foreign, language, but no, it just seems really fucking odd. So our party is now whittled down to 2 people. And I still don't give a flying fuck about either one of them. Guys, this is really getting bad. I was hoping that by this point I'd be given just the slightest reason to care about any of the characters in this thing, or to give a shit about any of the conflict. And this movie has yet to give me any of that. This is really becoming a more and more bothersome chore with every passing fucking second, guys. Well, guys, that was Dungeons and Dragons: Wrath of the Dragon God. Let's shut that shit off. Okay. I'd like to say first off that I did not expect this thing to be worse than the first one, but somehow it totally fucking was. All right, I'm gonna start with the writing because, well, everything here is kind of just kind of problematic. But let's start with the writing first and foremost. One big problem which this movie had, which also plagued the previous film and seems to plague a lot of movies I cover in this series. Nobody who worked on this thing knows how to fucking write characters. Our characters were all so fucking bland and shallow that I couldn't find a reason to care about a single one of them. The very fact that we had members of the party die or get horribly injured or get fucking, disfucking-membered somehow, I didn't care, because the characters were that fucking bland. It probably doesn't help that for the first 15 minutes that we see our party to fucking gather, instead of actually referring to each other by name, they fucking refer to each other by their friggin' class, which seemed kind of I don't know, sad, pathetic, lazy. You would think that these people would be referring to each other by name as opposed to by what their D&D class is. Again, to me, it just felt a little bit weird. The very fact that we start off with that, and I just finished watching the movie and I don't even remember a single one of the characters' names. That's normally a bad sign. Anyway. So we have characters who suck. We have a villain who was carried over from the first film, which was probably a mistake there because all the villains in the first one were shit. But they also, when they brought him over, they took away his one most memorable feature, you see, guys. Damodar, when he was in the first film, the one thing I will always remember him for is having sky blue lipstick. It made him stand out in fucking crowds really, really well. They don't have that here. And what little characterization he had in the first film is completely gone here. They really could have made the villain here anybody else, and it would have fucking worked. They honestly could have named him Joe, and it wouldn't have changed a goddamn thing. The very fact that it is fucking Damodar is there specifically to try to connect this thing to the first one, and I kind of thought that after the first one failed so horribly, you'd want to distance yourself as far the fuck away from it as possible. But hey, why not? Let's just fucking let's just fucking steer into the shit, skid on this one, and just continue to stay focused on the first film. But anyway, so we have characters who suck. We have a villain who was a piece of shit in the first film, and our story. I stated it twice. I'm going to state it again. You have a dragon who has been rendered powerless, who is dormant in the mountain that your city is kind of built into. Why in holy fuck would you not go in there and kill the goddamn dragon the moment that you see him? I'm going to give you guys a little bit of a spoiler. The dragon at one point awakens and is given back his powers, at which point he then proceeds to burn most of the city. None of this would have happened if they would have taken and cut off the dragon's head. The very fact that when we see the goddamn dragon, when he's finally completely fucking awake and he's mostly skeletal, that tells me that cutting off the dragon's head and then burying the head like a couple of fucking like kingdoms over wouldn't have been that difficult. Because you're just cutting through bone. Unless fucking dragon bone is made out of something that cannot be cut at all. I mean, unless it's made out of fucking adamantium or vibranium or something. I don't see Yes, guys, I just made a fucking Marvel Comics reference while talking about D&D. I am that much of a sad nerd. Anyway, if Dragon Bone is that thick and you can't cut it under fucking conventional means, you have plenty of wizards and mages who could probably have severed the head magically. So basically, guys, the very conflict of this movie has no rhyme or reason to even be here, because there are countless ways that it could have been solved beforehand. So we basically have a plot that is here just for the sake of being here, and the very fact that the conflict itself is that fucking lazy, and the very fact that our characters are just so pathetic and shallow. There is no reason to care about anything which happens here, because you know what? Everything which happens to this fucking kingdom, they are totally asking for it, because they didn't take care of the fucking dragon problem before it became a full-blown fucking problem, okay? We have members of our party dying off and getting horribly, getting horribly injured, and you won't give a shit about a single one of them. The writing here is that fucking poor. And I'm going to tell you right now, yes, I am well aware that there is a third movie in this series. No, I am not going to watch it under any fucking circumstances. I have sat through 2 of them with absolutely abysmally terrible writing. I flat out refuse to sit through a third one of these. Now, the writing, as I've stated, is horrible. The acting is equally as bad. Now, you would think that being the one lone actor who came over from the first film, the guy who played fucking Damodar, would probably at least try to put in some level of effort to show that he isn't the talentless sack of shit we saw in the first film. But no, he really is just a talentless sack of shit. If this movie and the first D&D movie are anything to go by, this asshole doesn't know how to act, and goddammit, he shouldn't be allowed in front of a goddamn camera. But then again, I can say that about the rest of the cast in this film. Nobody fucking tried. And I can totally understand that a whole lot of that can be blamed on the horrible script. But still, guys, even when you have a horrible script, you still have to at least attempt to put in some level of effort, and nobody fucking did it. And that, guys, is just taking a bad movie and making it infinitely worse when the acting is this fucking bad. Alright? So, what else does this movie have to comment on? CG. I mentioned way early at the start of this movie that the CG has gotten worse since the first Dungeons & Dragons movie. I would like to clarify that 5 years had passed between the first film and this one. The very fact that the CG had gotten worse, even with the slashed budget, is inexcusable, because the CG in the first one looked fucking awful. And in 5 years' time, you should have been able to at least have matched that horrible CG with a smaller budget. And they couldn't even reach those fucking lofty heights. Instead, we have CG which basically looks as if it was the first thing anybody had ever modeled on a fucking computer. It looks terrible. This shit looks painful. And now, guys, mind you, you have to stare at this shit for an hour and 40 minutes. You have to watch all of this, the horrible acting and the terrible writing and the amateurish CG, for an hour and 40 fucking minutes. This is terrible. So, and really, guys, I don't have any other comments about the CG outside of it's worse than what was in the first movie, and that is a fucking accomplishment. Mind you, it's not a good accomplishment, but it's still a fucking accomplishment. The soundtrack here is well, the soundtrack here is sort of fitting. I mean, it actually does sort of give you that whole feel of being in a fantasy world. However, none of it is ultimately memorable, and well, that is fine, because honestly, nothing here was supposed to, like, because there were no pieces of music here which were meant to catch you anyway. A whole lot of them are there for the sake of atmosphere, and they at least accomplished that. So, guys, if there's any positives I can pull out of this, it's music. Well, and lighting and camera, because lighting and camera were also at least halfway decent. However, the very fact that the only positives I can give you are lighting, camera, and the score, that's fucking sad. Because this thing, guys, it should have by all rights have been better, and it wasn't. This thing should have gone out of its way to have been an improvement on the first Dungeons and Dragons movie, and instead it's another lazy, phoned-in mess. So guys, when all is said and done, am I able to recommend Dungeons and Dragons Wrath of the Dragon God? No. There is no way in hell I am going to recommend this. This movie was a horrible, terrible fucking waste, and goddammit, I am never going to watch it again. In fact, I am never watching any other movie which has the D&D name affixed to it, unless I am shown otherwise that it is worth my fucking time. Because I've sat through 2 of them, and they were definitely wastes of my time, and probably a waste of your time for watching me watching this shit. Anyway, wow, that wording sounded really off. Anyway, because this is Fan Appreciation Month, Dungeons & Dragons Wrath of the Dragon God came off the Amazon wishlist. The person who sent it in was Jeffrey, and similar to when I covered the first one, he wants me to promote his page over on rateyourmusic.com. Please, guys, swing over there. I do have the link in this video's description. Swing over there and check it out. And Jeff, thanks, dude. I am going to say I was really curious about both of these movies, and unfortunately, neither of them were ultimately good. But hey, I honestly would not have found out if you had not have sent them in. So, dude, thank you, and guys, once more, please swing over to his page over on rateyourmusic.com. Now, I actually do have a couple of D&D core books around here. I really should read those and sort of get fucking, caught up on rules and everything, and I'll probably try to get a campaign going with some friends once I actually write up one. I guarantee you, anything I fucking write up will be better than the shit that was in these. So I'm going to go and read those core books again. Anyway, guys, with that, we come to the close of another reaction and review. Until next time, ladies and gentlemen, take care, and I will see you all in the near future. Peace.